stuff is going to be driven by you. And if you want a copy of the recording, you're going to need to give the all clear. And also at the end, we're going to need the email address that you want us to send the recording and the deck to. So just so we're clear there. I'm going to give it another 3 or 4 minutes before we get stuck into the detail. But let's say hello to a few people. Martin, hello.
Marcus, hi, how are you?
I'm very well. Where are you?
I'm in sunny Barcelona in Spain, actually.
Oh, you poor thing, the suffering.
Exactly. No, I'm based in Spain, as you can tell by the accent, not from here. I think as Moeed knows, we've exchanged quite a few bad jokes back and forth on LinkedIn Messenger. He's a big supporter of my woeful B2B jargon and content. But yeah, really nice to be here. And what I want to get from this session is obviously ChatGPT is such a big buzzword and a big topic right now. And I guess it's about how to harness the power of it, use it for kind of deep account research, getting the edge on accounts by kind of automating a few different processes, and maybe seeing what sort of applications that the group have found when it comes to message copies and content and stuff like this.
Cool, excellent. Who haven't I met before? Alessia, hello.
Hi, everybody. I guess I'm jumping into introductions.
Just saying hello, really. We're waiting for everyone to arrive because there's about 50 people registered. So
Fantastic. Looking
it's
forward.
probably Moeed's appeal because no one ever turns up in this sort of volume for me.
Oh, come on.
I wish that was true. I don't think that's true. Come on. That's not true at all.
Anyway,
it's
Alessia,
it's the lighting.
So what would you like to get from today?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just would like to see where everything is going. It's exciting and scary at the same time. It's a big boom that's happened in the last few months, and I want to be on top of that wave and see how all of us collectively can use this technology and innovation to our advantage.
Okay, well, we're certainly aiming to give you guys that. Our objective today is to start opening your eyes to the possibility that we've seen, and hopefully to learn from you how you're using it. So we're going to be asking you a couple of questions as we go. Ultimately, we are selling a program at the end. There are 3 sessions today, the 28th and the 1st of April. You're welcome to come to more than this one, but if you do come to a second or a third, please bring a friend because we've got to make a living. Okay, so that's, you know, we're doing this partly because we're learning about this whole thing and we want to learn together. But collectively, we can learn a lot faster if we share and we cooperate. Moeed and I have been part of developing an ecosystem. It's about 100 vendors, all of whom operate in associated and related spaces, but we've agreed to coordinate like a cooperative. And what's really interesting is we now have the capacity to deliver like an enterprise, but without any of the headache or the politics, which is kind of fun. So we're playing with this stuff, and now this technology's arrived, and it's opened up some amazing possibilities. But if we don't act on this quickly, our competition will. And you don't want to be the person who gets it in about 6 months. Okay, because the dust will already have settled and people like you and I will be eroding their core market. Because you'll see from today just how potent this thing is. And we're not even close to scratching the surface. That's the exciting thing. Okay, I know I sound a bit zealous. So think of this as the next renaissance. It's the beginning of that. Dario, quick question.
I don't think you're sounding zealous. If you've seen what ChatGPT 4's API can do, you can literally draw on a napkin a web page with like buttons and tell it, oh, this should like, if you click the button, then it should reveal something beneath the button. And you take a picture and it just gives you the CSS and HTML. It's crazy.
It's blowing my mind, and I mean, I'm trying to get up to that level when it comes to the automation and the technical bit, which is again why we're trying to create this kind of environment. Because what Moeed and I bring is the ability to use really powerful, provocative questioning based in neuroscience. Because God knows, one of the things that all of us have suffered from is doing things and without realizing that we're putting our buyers off. Well, how many of you are using ChatGPT to do active role plays based on the personality types of your prospect, their preferred communication style, and using anything that's printed by them online as your source material in order to brief the technology to act as if they are your buyer? Well, that's possible today, now, this minute. Okay, so we're going to be playing with your heads a bit. And what we really want is a very interactive program. However, please keep the microphones off. Most of it, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing through the chat, because that way we can get a lot more covered. Remember, there is a session on the 28th, same time, same, and I'm not sure whether it's the same link, but it's the same time and there's more blurb. So just keep a track on that. And also the 1st of April, it's not an April Fool. Okay. We're launching then so that people don't get fooled by this technology. That was the original idea. It was funny at the time. Now, the program is 699, and that's 6 sessions. Okay. And then there are 2 other options which involve coaching as a group and individual one-on-one coaching with both Moeed and I, or if you choose him over me, I probably would if I were you, then go down that road. Okay. But you get the general gist. So today is all about us learning about the potential. So Moeed, can you just double check that the slides are working?
Yep. So I'm just going to share my screen. And just put a thumbs up if you can actually see, or just thumbs up visually or through the emoji if you can see that. Good. All right. Yep. So Marcus, you can see that as well, correct?
I can. Yep.
Good. Okay. So a couple of things as hygiene, just to reiterate what Marcus has stated. So this will be an interactive session. There'll be some critical points where we're going to ask you some very important questions. Your answers will change the direction of the conversation we have today. So you have a lot of control in this live session. And it will also determine what we do in a really cool section towards the end, which will be a live demo. So these are not screenshots. We're going to actually live demonstrate some of the questions that we could be asking ChatGPT in the form of, or in the nature of, the sales process that you're involved in. And we'll come on to that in more detail. Feel free to throw out any questions, comments, etc. As moderators will be looking at that and just making sure that we answer any of your questions during the process. If not, we can always contact you afterwards and we arrange for that. Yeah, so we just want to make it as interactive as possible. So what are you going to expect, or what do we hope to give you by the end of the session? So there are 3 things that we want you to walk away from the session. Number 1 is understand the sheer potential of what ChatGPT can do, especially within the sales framework. Now, it can do a lot more, of course, but we're just going to be looking at the sales element and the persuasion element. We're going to show you around how to use ChatGPT to increase sales, right? Increase your sales performance. We're also going to look at how ChatGPT can improve the buyer commitment level as well. So not just engagement, but how you can use ChatGPT to increase commitment level. And so that is the chasm that a lot of salespeople talk to us about. They're able to have conversations with buyers, but it's gaining that commitment to the next stage and a meaningful commitment to the next stage. Quick round of questions that I'm going to ask everyone, actually. So type your answers out to these questions in the chat box. So now, caveat on this picture. I typed in normal person in Google, and this was one of the results that the images came up. So it's not a reflection of what we think is normal or anything like that. Boilerplate, all templates legals. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's talk about. So can anyone guess as to the average IQ of someone, and we're going to say in Western culture, just for the purposes of this, but can anyone guess, and type it in the chat box, can you guess what the average IQ is of someone in the Western world? And you know, try not to Google search this before your answer. So we've got 90, 70, 105, 95, 84, 100, 95. So some of you have the whole, you know, positive bias, right? So so for in the Western world, the average IQ is 90. Now, this fella, Albert Einstein, can anyone tell me what the theorized IQ, because he was never tested, of course, but what people believe and analysis believes his IQ was? 115, 155. Marcus is lowering the average, okay. 140, 150, 180, 100. Right, so yeah, 160 to 180. Now, can anyone guess? Now, this person, I don't know his full name, Anan, he's not this young now, he's about 23 now, but can anyone guess as to the officially recorded highest IQ ever? Can anyone guess what that might be? 191, 260. Some good guesses here. 200, 210, 191. Some very, very specific, 191. Sheldon Cooper. Actually higher than Sheldon Cooper.
Yeah.
So this young man, 263, right? Now, I want you to put this into context. You have Albert Einstein, who is twice, maybe just under, depending on the range, as smart as the average person. And he is responsible for some of the most amazing advances and breakthrough in human history, right? Even things like, satellite navigation, right? The theory of relativity, time, all those things, although he advanced them a bit further. Some of them were theories, but he's involved in some of the greatest thinking in our human history. And he was only twice, his IQ was twice as high as the average. Now, can anyone guess as to the multiple times in which AI at the moment is smarter than the average human being?
We're talking horsepower here.
Yeah, and I'll
Not
define
creativity,
IQ.
but the ability to process.
Yeah, to logically process information. And I will talk to you about the definition of that IQ in a moment. But just, so what was that? 10,000? Yep, 1,000, 100x. Some good guesses. So it's not 100. It's not 1,000. It's not even 10,000. Right? It's not even 10,000. It's 1 million right now. Just think about that for a moment. Albert Einstein, twice as smart, and he advanced our society in incredible ways. The AIs right now are about 1 million times smarter than the average human being. And when I say smarter, I mean in terms of IQ. IQ is the measure, the measure of reasoning ability. Now, reasoning ability is to assess things rationally using logic, based on new and existing information to make a decision, right, or solve a problem. And that's important because AI right now is being trained on existing information in order to actually help process information smarter, to make decisions and to inform in those making decisions and to solve problems. Now, here's the good news. Now, that can be quite scary, but here's the good news. You don't have to be that smart in order to be able to use this smart tool. You just have to be given the guidance based upon experience and testing out. You just need to be able to ask it the right questions. And you're really only limited by your creativity and your curiosity. And your curiosity here is probably going to be your superpower. So a quick introduction into us. A lot of you will know who we are. Some of you may not, right? So quick introduction to who we are. You know, why is it that we're qualified to talk about this? So my work, I'm a neurobehavioral strategist. What does that mean? Everything in business and in society as a whole comes down to one thing and one thing alone, which is the biochemical experience. And every decision that is made, every action that is taken in the business world, again, in the world at large anyway, in society, but in the business world, comes down to human thinking and human to human interaction. So whether you're in sales and marketing and you want to get better at using a language or the way to persuade people and understand decision making, whether you're in R&D and you're trying to gain commitment from stakeholders to break through innovation, whether you're in product and you're trying to understand the habits and the psychology to increase the number of users, to get more people to use your product in the best way and increase your ROI, or even if you're in HR, for example, and you're trying to attract and retain the best quality talent, particularly those who are being paid very well by very large companies, and you're a challenger brand, why should they come to you? That is where I'm involved. So we look at the biochemical, the neurochemical experience and reactions that are happening. How does that involve in terms of neuroscience and the structure of the brain and behavioral psychology, so that you can help people make decisions that are in your favor, but in a noble way without losing your integrity. So that's the work that I do. Marcus, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so essentially what I do is I help people get out of their own way. I'm intrinsically lazy. I subscribe to Carl von Clausewitz's recruitment policy, that when he was recruiting Prussian officers, he would recruit them for high intelligence and laziness. And I think great salespeople should be hired for the same qualities. We should be looking at how we can do less but better on purpose. And I got frustrated over the last 35 years in sales because I've looked at systems and processes that seem to cause us to waste hideous amounts of our effort and time and resource and money on pointless, dead activity. Think about cold calling. Cold calling, if it's done well, can be highly effective. But the way it's teed up, most SDRs get to speak to end customers who are on their list for 3 minutes a day. Now, that's out of 8 hours. That smacks to me of a pointless waste of people's lives and hideously inefficient. So I started looking around, and what I realized was you can build businesses on really solid values and principles. You don't have to sell out in order to be successful. So one of my core principles that I teach is that everything has to put the customer at the heart of what we do. Every job description has a window to the customer. We are obligated to the customer. And so I've been working on this concept of principled selling. So how do you get everything that you want in life without sacrificing your values and having to lie, manipulate, bully, brutalize, put people under pressure? And I've found a rhythm for my clients that seems to work beautifully for them. There are some of them on the call at the moment. If you want to talk to them, I'm sure they'd be happy to explain. But essentially, when you focus on your medium-term pipeline, that very quickly becomes short-term pipeline, but it gives you choice, and it means that you don't ever have to put your customers under pressure. When you focus on helping the customer advance their understanding, instead of trying to sell to them, they keep bringing you back because you have their back covered. And all of us have had bad, terrible experiences as sellers, as managers, as buyers, and we know that it's broken. So I spend my life trying to work out how to make the buying process as frictionless as possible for the buyer, except where they need to be challenged, because they don't need a doormat. They need someone who challenges them. And Moeed's terribly modest about this, but the research that he did was the basis for the Challenger sale. And the research she's done subsequently on CFOs is second to none. 583 CFOs interviewed about why they buy, how they buy.
Just to confirm, I wasn't involved in Challenger. I was a sales leader there. But the work that I've done since has found similar results to the Jolt effect and more, because my angle was different to what they were looking at. Doesn't mean theirs is better or mine is better. But yeah, with the 428 B2B buyers that I've interviewed so far, we've got some amazing results into what makes them buy and the decision-making process for them. So just to caveat, just to be clear, I wasn't involved in Challenger. I don't want it out there that I was a sales leader in that company. Okay. But Matt Dixon is or was one of my mentors. Yeah.
So without laboring the point, I do coaching and training. If you want to talk to me about that, that's cool. If you want to talk about coaching with Moeed, that's good. And if you want to talk about both of us working with you, that's cool. Now let's get stuck into the meaty stuff.
Yeah. So today we're going to do a few things for you. So number one, we're going to look at how ChatGPT can help drive sales growth. We're going to look at some of the details around that. What we're also going to look at is how you can use ChatGPT to improve the buying experience, right? So addressing pain points, understanding the stresses and challenges, learning about their perspective, which is really, really important, and often one of the most frustrating and difficult things for salespeople to understand. The other thing we're going to look at are the strategies, right? So we're going to look at some examples around guides on how you can use ChatGPT and also how you can integrate it into your sales approach as well. And what we'll also do is a live demo. So you're going to see this in action. You're going to see ChatGPT actually generate answers to the questions that we ask. You're going to see how we structure those questions as well. And why is it that those structures get to some incredibly valuable and insightful answers. So let's start with the first bit, which is driving sales growth. So when you look at a typical funnel, and when you look at some of the challenges, and so some of the top 6 challenges that we hear generally, right, there will be some nuanced differences that salespeople experience. You will see these 6, and they typically are aligned with the sales funnel, but not necessarily so. But they are things that are increasingly becoming more difficult as the dynamic and the macroeconomic dynamic and the effect this is happening on buyers and their purchasing behavior. This is the impact this is having, and this is why it's so difficult. So one thing that I want to do right now is launch a poll. And I'm curious for you to see what you're all saying around what is the biggest challenge for you. So I'm just going to launch that poll now. Marcus, can you confirm if you can see that poll?
Yep, I can see that.
Good. So just take a few seconds just to answer the question and let us know what you feel is the biggest sales challenge for you right now. And if you're not strictly involved in sales, maybe it's the persuasion process, right? Or the act of reaching out to someone in order to persuade them to do something. Okay, I'll just give it a few more seconds. I'm seeing a few more answers coming through. So we'll give it 10 more seconds. Okay. So interesting there. So the top one, now, okay, I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to let you all into a secret here. The answers you've given are in the exact same order that I have created on this slide. Guess how I created this slide's order? It was from ChatGPT. Now, I interrogated it quite deeply in order to get to that answer. But it's very interesting how, and I wasn't expecting this, by the way, but this is very interesting how it's almost exactly the same. Apart from the third and fourth there that came in as equal, the answers given are pretty similar. So, finding and reaching the right people, it has been a perennial issue in sales for quite some time. And it's interesting how certain technologies that have been touted to help solve this problem have overpromised and, in my opinion, overwhelmingly underdelivered. And so this is still a challenge right now. Now, we're not going to claim that ChatGPT is the answer to that specifically, but what it will do is dramatically improve the quality of your conversations. And I'll give you a statistic for this. For every $92 that is spent acquiring a lead, only $1 is spent converting that lead to a customer. $92 spent acquiring a lead, and only $1 is spent on converting that lead into a customer. And ChatGPT can help you flip that on its head. So you might be able to spend similar amounts or maybe less. The idea is to spend less, but you're not going to spend that much more to convert lead into customer, but your conversion rate should be a lot higher. So we're going to address that in the live demo, and based upon your answers, we're going to address that in the live demo later on. Marcus, any thoughts before I move on from this one slide?
Yeah, I'm really curious, and I'd love people to put in the chat. What's the most frequent way you're using ChatGPT yourselves personally at the moment? If you can pop that in the chat, that would be really helpful. Content, top of funnel. Buyer persona is good. Cold outreach. Trying to catch.
What does that mean, Adam? What do you mean by trying? Oh, right. Okay. Good stuff.
He's messing with it. Just started to know. Okay, research, content, landing page.
KPIs of buyers. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Using it for researching competition. Good one. Yep.
Yeah.
Creative battle cards. Some interesting ones there.
Very interesting. Okay, again, all good uses and stuff that I've definitely been playing with. So I'd be really curious on sharing some thoughts and ideas with you there and getting some back. Okay, fantastic. And what's the biggest challenge that you're facing? That it's just perennial. Every time you try and throw money, time, resources at it, it just seems to come back. First meeting, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Board level engagement and approval. That was an interesting one. Prospect ghosting post demo. Okay.
Okay. Good. Oh, stop meowing at me, cat. Right. Okay, interesting. So let's move on then to the next slide, please. Okay, so how do we apply ChatGPT? Well, I fundamentally believe that every buyer deserves the best prepared, the most well-researched, and the most provocative salespeople. And ChatGPT gives us the capacity to do the research of hours or weeks, months, even years in a fraction of the time. I was messing about with this a couple of weeks ago, and I was doing a competitor analysis. So I compared about 50 different competitors, 10 from 5 different categories, compared them for what was similar, what was different, and where the gaps were. And then had it build me a 48-week program. And it took 12 minutes. And that's because I was taking my time over the questioning and I went off and boiled the kettle. It's quite amazing. So you can do some stunning research. Are you using it to pass the language of the buyer from annual reports, investor relations pages, investor calls and transcripts, trade press? Have you used it to run against common buying processes? Looking at evaluation, decision-making, what the criteria are, and then assessing it against, for example, the economics. So, you know, Series B company coming to the end of their runway, they took funding, but now heavily in debt, weren't expecting the interest rate hike, paying 70 grand a month out on interest rate, on interest, and the CFO is under pressure to cut spending. How do I get him to buy from me? Okay, what priorities might the CFO have? What other pressures might they be facing? Which other departments are, given the nature of this business, manufacturing, selling to Asia and other emerging markets, what challenges might they be facing with their supply chain? Yeah. Now, how the hell are you going to get that kind of research without a tool like this? Yeah. And it wasn't there 6 weeks ago for most of us, and now it is. I mean, how cool is that? Okay, then your needs assessment. Well, when we think about discovery, how bad is discovery when you're a buyer and you're having to suffer the experience of having a salesperson take you through it? Isn't it offensive a lot of the time? How many salespeople are still using BANT as a qualification process? And then they wonder why the customer ghosts them. Okay, so again, really powerful way is to look at job descriptions and job adverts and have it run job adverts to look for common KPIs, common reporting lines, because how someone is scrutinized matters. Yeah. And you can start pulling reports from tools like Crystal Nose. How many of you, any of you familiar with Crystal Nose? It's a widget that goes onto LinkedIn, and it assesses their behavioral and communication style. So it tells you whether they're what their DISC style is. It used to do an Enneagram and various others, but it gives you some really powerful stuff. Now, you can run your profile against that profile. If anyone wants a link, I'll add it in here as well. I think you get 21 days free if you use it. And you can get their profile and you can pull it into ChatGPT as part of your pre-call planning and rehearsal briefing. Okay, so that moves beautifully into scenario testing. You know, when you're developing your hypothesis in the Challenger sale, one of the things that it teaches you is, you know, come in with a really powerful hypothesis that enters into their world in a unique and challenging way. Our job is to provoke. It's not to be passive. That's not selling, that's order taking. Yeah. So then we can start to look at the reasons why people might not want to work with us. And how many of you have identified your weaknesses as a business and run it through ChatGPT and asked how to neutralize that problem up front? It's wonderful. You can feed it medic structures, you can feed it soundless structures, you can feed it solution-focused therapy questions. So you can give it nuance. And you can see how a candidate, for example, they may not have been trained officially, but you might be able to tell from their responses how they've been trained and who their bosses were from just the language that they use when they're handling objections. Okay, what about negotiation? How many of us have gone into negotiations unprepared, and as a result, we've given away the baby with the bathwater and the bath? Okay, well, there is no excuse. I mean, one of my rules with my clients is for every hour you are in front of the prospect, you must do 3 hours of preparation. Yeah. I mean, if you're spending $92 to acquire a lead and only $1 to close it, it has to warrant the question, is there a better way? Now, the post-sale piece, which really excites me, because that's the expansion sale. Most sales leaders come from cold, direct new business. So everything looks like the hammer, everything looks like a nail because all they have is a hammer. Well, think about this. If you're applying this technology to help you understand your customers' ecosystem, their network, and you're able to use it to help you get injected into that account in half a dozen different ways at different times in their buying cycle. And I mean, just think about how much easier your life would be without having to faff around cold. That's what this is gifting us. I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little thrill up my spine. Okay, let's have some feedback. So comments so far.
Yeah, so we're getting some questions here, Marcus. So Sam asks weaknesses, how would it help with weaknesses in terms of gap? Is it gaps in value proposition or something else?
It could be that, let's do the HubSpot Salesforce, okay? If you are selling HubSpot and you are up against someone who was really hot on Salesforce, how do you sell against it? Question I like to ask. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Well, key question I like to ask is, what is the weakness in my competitor's strength? How do I sell against that? My weakness is X. Help me understand how I can create a strong business case. We're number two, we try harder. Absolutely. Avis versus Hertz. Yeah. The damaging admission is often a way to close the deal. And you can use this to frame it against different psychological frameworks. If you want to run it as Freudian or Trumpian or Genghis Khanian, you can. One of the funniest things I did, in fact, my first one was write me a sales report in the manner of an Assyrian king who has scalped a customer for the deepest possible, the highest possible fee. And it was hilarious. You can write songs, you can write poetry. With GPT-4, it's going to be it can inform you. And with eDALI, you can now create images from just text. So I could do a green tiger with antlers, and off it pops. Okay. Now, Imagine how much more interesting your prospecting could be. Yeah, you run Justin Michael's codices through the system, and you have it spit out the campaigns for you. And if you're technical enough, you tie it to some automation, and off it goes doing visual models. Now, it needs some human supervision. Don't just let it run off willy-nilly, okay, at this stage, because none of us know how bad it can get. But just think, the opportunity here is phenomenal. And the skill of connecting with the CFO, absolutely. But again, if you understand the neuroscience and you understand the emotional and business drivers, then it's not actually that difficult. Because a CFO has an unwritten line in their job description, which is talent spotter. If they spot real talent, and that's down to you developing that killer hypothesis, they will hand deliver you. And instead of getting a shunt to Siberia, you get a golden shunt. You get access rights back. And all of that can be planned and engineered through this system, through this tool. Okay, right. So I think I've done enough raving and ranting. Be more nurturing, better. Yes. Okay. So Adam's written, let's pretend we're now 100 times better prepared. We can ask better questions, be more nurturing, and provide better insight. Yes. Outside of free copywriting, how could AI help sellers prospect? How would AI change cold calling, for example, or modify the pitch? Okay. So let's just see what the next slide is, because I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's speak to this. Most of us, when we do our research, will probably look at sector and size and maybe the skew, what's it, the thingy number, can't even remember what it's called. I was thinking skew, but it's not. Maybe you'll have a quick peek on the website. But how many of you have really got an understanding of the structure of the organizations that you sell into? The different moving parts? Because businesses have wicked problems. They have messy, complex, interdependent, interrelated, intertwined problems that have 4 fundamental rules about them. The first thing you try doesn't work. And it's hopefully a series of non-fatal experiments until you find something that does. Stakeholders differ. They jump in, they jump out, they change their minds, they stall things, they disappear, they come back. The rules change as you go. And there are no perfect solutions, only imperfect outcomes. How many of you sell into environments like that? Just raise your hand. Any of you? None of you? Okay. Well, tell me this. What contributes significantly to churn?
Type your answer in the chat box. We'll be interested to hear.
Yeah. The bad product would be one. Poorly set expectations. Absolutely. Okay. What else? Come on. Poor CS. Yes, absolutely. What causes churn? Absolutely. Yes. Okay, so how many of you have been in organizations where someone bought a piece of technology and it just added to your workload? It created more friction. It slowed you down. It made you less effective. Has that not happened to anyone? It's probably an easier question. Right. Okay. Why? Because they're badly bought, they're badly sold, they're badly thought through, they're badly implemented. Then you train people and those people turn over. So then you have to replace those people and then you buy more technology to replace the people who've gone. How much technology do you reckon has been bought entirely out of fear and ignorance? Cliff, how much training do you reckon has been bought out of fear and ignorance and bought badly?
Probably a lot.
Okay. I mean, when was the last time users and customers were involved in any of the discussions, either about product or about training or about implementation and all sorts of other fun stuff? Someone buys it and then they go off and someone has to live with the consequences. Okay. Well, if you use this tool to help you understand and map out the organizational structure, how much intelligence do you reckon you might be able to gather through the innovation process and through operations? The poor buggers who are right on the coalface getting it in the neck every time because the product's been badly designed or it's been missold. Yeah? Now you've got a fantastic opportunity as a really thoughtful seller to start networking within these organizations and starting to build a multi-threaded approach. So you're probably engaging with between 12 and 20 different individuals within that organization over a 6 to 36 month period. I'm going to bring Adam in at the moment because he's my poster child for this. What's the difference when you focus on medium-term pipeline over a 6 to 12 month period?
This month, about 3 times forecast delivery it's been for us. It completely takes the stress out. Yeah, like you said, it very quickly becomes that medium term becomes short term, and it just your 30, 60, 90-day funnels cease to become a problem.
And once that ceases to become a problem, then you can focus on high value behavior. High value behavior for your selling, high value behavior for your managers, high value behavior for operations and CS and leadership. This is all about freeing up time and redeploying it. Alessia, what are you sad about?
People are so upset about CRMs and how they're using it, because I think it should help, not hurt people.
Well, but you're so right. But the problem is, I mean, how much of this technology has been bought to give the illusion of control to management? That's the problem, because CRM isn't there to help salespeople sell more often to more people. It's to give management the illusion of control of the pipeline. Yeah, automation is there to give salespeople the illusion of control over their pipeline. All it does is make extra work mostly. So what I want you guys to really take from this is, how do I do less but better on purpose and mean it consistently? Yeah, I would rather have a rep speak to just 3 people a day and only make 3 dial attempts, but get them and have those conversations, than make 100 or 300 dials. I don't care about the activity. That some has to exist, don't get me wrong, but what I want is effectiveness, and that's what's been sacrificed. That in the race for scale, what's been sacrificed is effectiveness for the illusion of efficiency. And by creating more busy work, you just make yourself less effective. Because what counts is, do we go to the bank? And do they keep coming back and bringing their wealthy friends? Okay, so you think about this. Yeah, the buyer's journey is just so complicated. And I'm going to give you the way most salespeople see the buyer's journey. Okay, and it's a trip to McDonald's drive-through. Car arrives, places the order at the squawk box, drives forward, taps the card, pays, drives forward, picks up the food, drives off. Okay, now the real buyer's journey is this. You've got these screaming ankle biters at home, screaming, "I'm hungry, feed me." You pile them into the car, and they're screaming at 96 decibels all the way. World War III is breaking out. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? You get to the back of the queue. You can see at least 8 cars in front of you, and you know there's 4 around the corner. So you got a bit of a wait. Anyway, they're shouting, they're fighting. You get further and further to the front. Then you get round the corner. The squawk box is in front of you. You take their order. Then one of them tells you that they want to go vegetarian this week. So you know that you're going to have to wait. So you place the order. Someone who speaks English as their 5th language and has a PhD in chemical engineering is listening to this squawk box and not quite sure they took the order right, but you can't be asked to go through the whole process again. But one of the little buggers changes their mind, and then you're really uncertain. So you drive forward, you tap your card. Best bit is having a walletectomy. Then you drive forward, but because you got the vegetarian, you've got to go and pat and sit. Then they arrive, they bring it, and you wonder, do you check? Because someone's waiting to go into the space. So you drive off. Then one of them ends up with a chip up their nose. You end up in A&E, okay, and there's a bit of vomit to clean up before you have to recycle the packaging. That's the real buyer's journey. Now, how many of you understand your buyer's journey to that depth and understand the triggers, the points where they stop, where they ghost you, why they ghost you? Because all of that is open to you if you're willing to ask the right questions and be patient enough to do the upfront investment. That's the hard part. Okay, cool.
And the interesting part, just to add something there, the interesting part from a neural and behavioral psychological perspective, traditionally, you would try to research that yourself. And I don't know if you've tried to research this in Google, for example, but there's a bunch of information there. A lot of it's confusing. You know, there's a perspective in there that you're not quite sure about. And that's not to say that ChatGPT is going to give you a more accurate perspective necessarily, but you have to wade through a lot of information in order to validate it. Or the other option is build it on years upon years of experience with speaking with hundreds or maybe thousands of people in this area, right? Thousands of buyers. Now that is a long time. But what you can do is close that gap. You can turn 3 years into 2 weeks. And you can do that by knowing what questions to ask ChatGPT about each element of that buyer's journey that you are looking at. It's not going to give you the exact answer, but what it will do is, if you're thinking about a 100 meters race, instead of slowly going each meter to 100 meters, you can shunt forward by 10, 20, maybe even 30 meters at a time. And that will help you prepare and become so much more well-informed in the conversation. I'll give you an example that Marcus and I have done. You know, we were talking to specific industries. In fact, I was talking to a tech company that sells technology to restaurants. I've not really worked in a restaurant before, right? I don't really know to that level of detail the technology involved and the kind of challenges that they face, etc. on both sides. I certainly don't know how that's implemented unless I speak to my friend who happens to be an operational director for big, large restaurants. But with ChatGPT, I can ask it critical questions. And when I spoke to those founders of those companies, they believed that I'd been working with that industry for years, when all I'd done was do a bit of research for an hour. And that's the power of what this is. You can now have a tool at your disposal that's so smart that if you know the iterative questions, and this is the important part, the iterative questions to ask, you will get to an incredibly informed answer that makes you more incredibly informed. Does that make sense for everyone, right?
And again, one thing, if you're going to be on this program, what I'm going to implore you to do is start keeping a library of your queries, and we're going to share ours to anyone on the program. And we want you to share yours as well. That's how we're going to learn the fastest. Human beings have a superpower, which is cooperation. That's what put us to the top of the food chain. Our ability to cooperate and then work together on one problem and then choreograph our activity and then raise everybody up. Okay, that's what this whole program, the ethos, it's been built on. So we're learning from you and you're learning from us, but we're going to create that central library so you will have ways to query faster. Okay, so we want to accelerate people's learning.
Yeah, and there's another thing to add to that, which is, and I realized this very early on, but it just kind of blew my mind. One of the theories, and there are a few theories of our evolution, but one of the theories for why Homo sapiens became the dominant species or human species was also because of language. Language enabled us to actually store information for longer periods in the future. So I'll give you an example. With language, we were able to say, with very basic language that other species of humans could have done, they would have said, avoid this river because there's a tiger there. Homo sapiens took that further to say, this river has the freshest, most nutritious fruit and vegetables foraging that we can forage to support our tribe. However, avoid this river between the hours of this and this, 12 till 2, or whatever according to the sun at the time, because that's when the tiger is there. So all of a sudden, you've created a three-dimensional element to your survival mechanism. It wasn't just about avoiding the river at a certain time. It wasn't about avoiding the river completely. It was about avoiding the river at a certain time, but there is something that can help us advance our survival. Now, why do I say this? It's because ChatGPT is a language learning kind of tool. It's based around communication and understanding. So with that kind of million times more kind of IQ intelligence, imagine how advanced your approach in your work and in life can be as well. That is the power of ChatGPT, right? And that's why I got very excited about it. And I'm very excited about Bard, and I've kind of pre-registered on the wait list for Bard as well. And hopefully I'm going to get it soon. But that's the whole point of this. So if we move on, because I want to make sure that we have some time here for the live demo. So a couple of things that we just want to summarize in terms of what you can do with ChatGPT, right? So number one, you can test your thesis. Time and time again, I'm still surprised by the number of salespeople that call themselves professionals, and yet they train and test their approaches live in the field. That's like an Olympic athlete saying, I don't need to train, I'll test my abilities at the Olympic Games. It is just not a safe environment in which to do so. You're exposing yourself to multiple points of failure and frustration. And guess what? In this day and age, with radical transparency, you're going to create a name for yourself that's not conducive to your success with your buying community.
Well, so, two other really important points on this as well. One of the best lessons I've learned in the last few years is try and find people that disagree with you. Until you grow up enough to go out and actively find people who will disagree with you, you're never going to know whether your thesis stands up. And it needs to rub up against people who disagree with you a little and a lot and often. And you're always testing it because it may not continue to be right. Okay, and that's really important. The other wonderful thing about this is that I can try as many different angles as I like in a safe environment where there are no negative repercussions, because the amateur practices in front of the customer. Okay, when you think about it, the tariff of you screwing up a perfectly viable deal is however many cold calls and emails and follow-ups and then excuses that you have to make to replace it. Don't do that. Do not waste a good quality opportunity by lack of preparation. Yeah.
These are critical moments. Yeah, these are critical moments that if you lose them, you won't get them back, or it's very hard to get that back. How many times have we had a conversation with a buyer that we've messed up? We've tried to get back in there, but then they've ghosted us, right? And in some ways, that's what ghosting is, right? In some respects. I know this sounds quite harsh, but ghosting is where you didn't impress them enough, and therefore what you have to deliver and offer is being pushed down the priority ladder every time, right? So we can show you how you can use ChatGPT to really, really stress test what you're doing and get it to disagree with you or act like a disagreeer. What you'll also be able to do is kind of build a credible strategy. So it's not just stress testing it as we've done in kind of stress testing your thesis, but you can also help you create a plan. And creating a plan psychologically is one of the surest ways to combat imposter syndrome. One of the biggest contributors to imposter syndrome isn't just really lack of knowledge, although ChatGPT can help you with that. It's lack of confidence. And that lack of confidence comes from, I haven't prepared enough. If you just prepare a little bit more and have a clear strategy, you'll find that your confidence level will shoot up. The other thing with ChatGPT is, so if I just click that, plan implementation. So in the neuroscience of decision-making, an area that I talk about extensively, and that's the angle that I come across. If you want to know how to sell better or persuade better, learn how someone makes a decision better. One of the critical elements in the 4 stages of decision-making and acting on that decision is what's called plan implementation. And Marcus has talked about this quite a bit. It is understanding how your product, your solution, your service is going to become a part of the buyer's world. What does that look like? How are they viewing it? Is it a safe process? Is it a process that they feel they can manage? Do they feel that they're going to have support from you and your company in that process? Because if you're not walking them through that detail, they're making that detail up themselves based on past experience. And I can guarantee you that that past experience is not going to be a true reflection of future experience. And so you want to make sure, you want to be able to use ChatGPT. In fact, it's a fabulous tool to help you understand that and articulate that in a better way. It's one of the biggest stall points in a decision-making process when it comes to the seller and buyer interaction. And you can use this tool to completely supercharge that. The next thing that you can look at and use ChatGPT for was system building. And this is an area that Marcus talks about quite a lot. Experience is nothing but a large number of interactions in a particular scenario with a particular outcome that you've experienced. It's your brain's ability to compute and understand the feedback mechanism from everything that you're going through in life, right? Pour the kettle in a certain way, hot water will spill out of my hand, that causes burn. I want to avoid that. That's prediction error. I want to make sure that I don't do that again, right? And system building with ChatGPT and with our program allows you to fast track that process. So rather than trial it out yourself, what you can do is, as you start to build that experience with our support, but also doing it on your own as well and kind of testing it, as you're building that experience, you now create a repeatable and scalable system of questions and interrogation processes that you can ask ChatGPT for the majority of your sales interactions. And once you have that systematized process, the speed at which you can gather information is incredible. So this is leading to the part that Marcus talked about, which is increase output, but reduce the amount of time spent doing so. And ChatGPT can really help you with that. And then the final thing is the human AI partnership. Make no mistake, AI is a tool, and just like any other tool, the quality of the output of that tool is determined by the intelligence of the person wielding it. A huge amount of money is spent in the sales enablement or sales tech industry, right? A lot of it is useful, a lot of it isn't. But even those that are not, it's not because there's something wrong with the products themselves. It's because the approach was back to front. So people bought those technologies in the hope that it will change things, where what they should have done is buy that technology and at the same time, if not before, address the intelligence of the people that are using this. And I don't mean IQ intelligence, I mean applicable intelligence of that tool, i.e., training on how to use that tool, the fundamental mechanisms for how to think and apply certain principles in order to use that tool in the best way possible. And AI is the same. I said before, you don't have to be massively intelligent in order to know how to use ChatGPT, but you do need to know the mechanisms by which to interrogate it with specific questions in certain orders and an iterative process that will help you get the most out of it. So any person can sign up to ChatGPT. It is free, but not everyone can use it in the same way. So why is it that there are some people that can use it in the same way? Some people that use it brilliantly and able to get the most out of it, and others aren't. It's the same as the number of hours in the day. Everyone has 24 hours in a day. Some people are able to get more out of those 24 hours than others. Why is that? Well, there are fundamental principles, tools, and laws and approaches that they use to do so. And it's the same with ChatGPT as well. Let's jump into the live demo, right? Marcus is going to lead this one. You should be able to share your screen. Let me just double check. Yep, should be able to share your screen. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And Marcus, if you take it away, what we would ask you, I think we already asked the question. So what we'll do is we'll take the second one, which is establishing trust. Okay. And we'll use a specific profile of buyer as well that Marcus will test out. And
Okay,
do
so
keep your comments coming along as well. So if you're observing something, share it with everyone else. We want this to remain as interactive as possible.
Okay, so just kick off with something very basic. Now, a very useful prompt. Continue, more. Yep. Okay. So then what I might do is the person I need to build trust with has had bad experiences buying from salespeople in technology. She is a CFO in a Series A scale up, looking to raise funding in the next 12 months, raise Series B funding in the next 12 months. What areas should I focus my research on to build my hypothesis? Okay, let's see what it says with that. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm trying to use this to help me open up my thinking.
So
Okay.
Marcus, would you mind if I jump in? If you
Please.
scroll up to point 1 that it gave you. No, sorry. So the last question that you gave. Right. So it says, identify the pain points and challenges that CFOs and scale-ups face during the fundraising process. Here's what if you asked, so here's a good example. If you extrapolate that and say, okay, expand further on point 1, what are those common pain points and challenges? Right.
Okay. So now we're starting to try and get a sense of their day-to-day. What would a typical week consist of for the CFO at this stage in the company's evolution? Where will she lose time? Which departments are most likely to be causing her to lie awake at night? Okay. Tell me about seasonal variation in workload and stress within the finance team. Who is likely to be under the most pressure? Who will be a flight risk? Now, I'm really curious, from what you're seeing so far, how are you thinking that you might use this? Do you want to direct me in terms of my questioning? I'm using 3.5 at this stage. Copy, paste. It's not letting me copy it for some reason. No.
Development or hypothesis. Yeah, Adam, can you be specific? Can you give us a specific example of development hypothesis? It doesn't have to be too detailed, but job title,
Yeah, so
type of industry.
Specifically, if I was dealing with an operations director in the FMCG manufacturing space in the UK, given the undoubtable issues they've got in supply chain, difficulty with cost pressures, what avenues are they typically going down to try and alleviate some of those pressures? How do they see the next 12 months? What will make their life easier?
Yeah. So we can use that as a question. One of the things that we'll go through in the program is how you can use specifics around that question to get a really detailed response, given the nature of that individual. But we can use that example as a general way of just observing how to do that. Should we use that example, Marcus?
Yeah. So we can use that as a separate one. Let me just finish this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, something I know, so I can ask an informed question into this business at this time. What are the probable objections I will face? How do you suggest I neutralize them in advance? And what language should I use to frame my hypothesis when I approach the CFO and she tells me that it's not in the budget?
And look, it's just giving you a text, right? A kind of example of how you would do that. And you can, through an iterative process now, you can extrapolate that and start inputting specifics about the company, about the person, about the situation, about the product.
And so you can nuance it. It does take, a good quality questions to get better answers out.
And that's the trick to it.
And so the more you know, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, how many times have we been stuck on what to say? Or even in an email where we have, we're in a place of safety at our desks, and we still struggle on what to say. How do I craft this? How do I craft this email? Could I have crafted it better? What are the kind of words that I can use? And just by sharing almost your feelings and your thoughts with ChatGPT, it can help you get to the answer faster, but you will also feel far more confident when you send it out. And so that is a very big part of what Marcus is demonstrating here right now. And the point is how you use it, right? Obviously, but already there from just a few questions, it actually gave you an example of what you can do, and you can refine it. And some of the questions I ask for it afterwards is I say, that's great. Expand that into a potential article, or digest that into a social media post now using 160 characters, right? The possibilities are pretty endless. Like I said at the beginning, you're only limited by your imagination and your curiosity here.
So again, as you start playing with it and you become more and more comfortable with the exercise, start playing with nuance. Apply, for example, create a hype-worthy headline to appeal to the founders of Series A, approaching funding Series B, to engage in conversation about not raising funds, but growing organically. Yeah. Any questions, thoughts? Right. Okay. Interesting, Tom. Yeah, for identifying job functions, I've used it for that. So what job functions are likely to be involved in this kind of decision? Bring me up job descriptions. Describe the typical day-to-day working environment that people running strategic partnerships have to live through. Yeah. Who is the most? Yeah. So if it's not the CFO, who would they delegate that to? Who can lead us to the CFO? Who has the ear of the CFO? If I know that the operations director has the CFO's ear because they've got financial credibility within the organization, I'm probably better going through the COO than I am going through either direct or going through someone on their team. Yeah. Act as B2B. For some reason, it's not letting me copy from the chat. I don't know why. So act as a B2B salesman. What information can you find? Yeah, right. Okay. I'll type it out. Act as a B2B seller to a CFO. Respond to how can you save me 30% on my cost of customer acquisition, and then there we go. Okay, keep it short to no more than 4 sentences and 50 words. Oh, 50 words. Stop. So stop generating, and you click on that and delete, and there you go. Right. Okay. Write the post in the style of Steve Jobs. So again, you can have different voices, which is pretty useful if you want to try and get different perspectives, different angles. Because remember, a lot of selling is about nuance.
So
the
I'm,
way
I'm conscious of time as well, Marcus. So we've got
okay,
about
the
9
way
minutes.
you copy from ChatGPT is you do Command A if it's a Mac, or you just do Command and then the up button and Shift, and you copy all of that, and then you save it into a Google Doc, and then you select all, and then clear formatting, and it clears all the format. I'm sure that can be Zappied. Anything else? Okay. So conscious of time, we've got 8 minutes left. Any other questions or anything else that you want me to try out before we wrap up? Have I lost you all? No. Okay. Okay. So in that case, let's start wrapping up. Okay. So in the chat, what's the one thing that you found most useful or you've enjoyed the most? Cool. We like do less but better on purpose. Absolutely. Yeah, for the analysis, I mean, try doing a comparative analysis of your products and your competitors' products. Adam did something which was really quite cool, which was to have it diagnose how to solve a problem on one of the machines he sells. Really, really interesting. Cool. Okay. Fantastic. Test the thesis on ChatGPT, not on prospects. Absolutely. Okay. So going forward from here, we're going to send you an email with the video. We're going to send you the deck. And if you haven't yet put your email in the chat, make sure you do. because that's how we're going to know that we've got it. We will send you the recording later on tonight and the deck. If we're also going to send you a feedback form. It's 3 questions, very simple. Basically, what did you enjoy the most? Do you want to be part of the program? And another question I can't remember. If you can come back to us ASAP, and if you want to book onto the program, then please do. We're doing 6 sessions. They're going to be an hour and a half each, and we're going to go into the whole process of developing your hypothesis as the program. So that's your big output, how to develop the hypothesis. But in the process of doing that, it's going to be knowing your customer and doing the research, planning, the execution of the sale. Yeah, we're going to work on all of those different aspects so that by the end of it, you can put together a really killer hypothesis. So if any of you want to stay on for the last 5 minutes or so to chat to us or ask us questions, you're very welcome to do so. Other than that, is there anything else to add, Moeed?
No. No. I mean, just one main thing, which is, like I said, it's the application of the tool that makes the difference.
Yeah.
So knowing the things like what we talked about around the psychology, knowing kind of what the best salespeople do, knowing how to approach those kind of questions makes the difference. And so that's a thing that's really going to help you, and that's what we're going to bring to this. So yeah, happy to answer any questions that people have in the last few minutes. Yeah, open up to the floor by all means. Yes, Cliff, that's correct.
Yeah, £699 plus sales tax, unfortunately, which is 20%. But if we do it through the company, we don't have to charge the sales tax, so you won't be charged, because you can.
Oh no, well you will. You can claim it back if you do it through your company.
In America, we don't. Do we have to? No.
In America, no. Correct.
To.
Sorry. In America, no. It's only for UK.
Okay.
Any questions from anyone around us? Yeah.
How do you avoid tax in the UK? That's an interesting question. I have been asking it how we can eliminate poverty, and interestingly enough, tax reform and parliamentary reform are high on the list, although I don't imagine it's going to happen. No, it's not. Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, guys. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Remember, if you want to come to the next one, please bring a friend. It's on the 28th, and we're going to be doing some more of this. The first half will probably be much the same, but we'll try and keep that a bit shorter so we can do a bit more of a demo. Yeah. Have you got what you wanted? Yeah. Okay, fabulous. If you can put a nice comment on LinkedIn, that would be lovely as well. And testimonials are always very welcome. So thank you all. And